So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market like we are every Sunday. I want to talk about real estate due diligence. So I've heard people say that through the years. Sometimes the people that say it, I can look at them and tell they have no idea what they're talking about. They just heard a cool word on social media. But due diligence is basically an opportunity for a buyer of a property or a developer or a prospective buyer or even an agent to do some research and fact finding on the house. So due diligence encompasses a lot of things. One of the first and most important things it encompasses is a home inspection. Home inspection is going to reveal things that are not operating as they should in the home. They're not necessarily going to notice a lot of cosmetic things. It's more things that are defective, things aren't working as they should. They may notice trends or maintenance items in the house that might be needed, but a home inspection is a big part of that and a crucial part of the home buying process. However, what I will tell you about it is it's a part of the process that a lot of people get spooked out about for not really great reasons.
Oh, I hate that.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen buyers cancel deals over stupid little things in home inspections, and they get scared because of the language that's in there makes them think the house is falling apart, when every house in that price range is going to have that issue. There's a GFI outlet out in the garage. How many times are you going to have, I remember seeing a GFI outlet being out, and it was the GFI outlet that the garage door opener plugged into. Are you really going to get water on that thing? I mean, really, it's on the ceiling. Come on. Even so, it's like $100 repair, and there's a meme going around on social media right now that it says, home inspector says the weather stripping on the door is shot. Buyer asks for new door, new roof, and $7,000 home buyer credit. It's that's really what ends up happening. Right. It gets blown out of proportion.
Well, I mean, I've had a buyer want to walk away from a deal, which I think it probably did fall apart because there was nothing. You're only as good as the other agent on the other side.
And right now there's a lot of new and inexperienced agents.
And this buyer ended up wanting to walk away from the deal because the roof only had 5 to 6 years of life left. And I think to myself, well, 5 to 6 years of life, in Florida a roof's about 20 years, can last 20 to 25 years. And 5 to 6 years, I mean, that's
pretty long.
A while. That's a while to budget for a new roof.
Right.
But I mean, I've had stuff come back where, the deal almost fell apart because of chipped paint on the bottom of a garage side access door. I mean, stuff that's very, very, very minor.
It's a 7-minute fix. And even the roof thing is funny because in that 5 to 6 years, so here's what ends up happening. They go around and look, and just about every home in the price range has a home that has an older roof. The ones that don't are $10,000 or $20,000 more expensive. So then they finance that over 30 years and pay $50,000 for that new roof. And the reality is most people don't think the long-term ramifications of the decisions they make when it comes to due diligence. They get upset over a minor inspection item. Then they'll spend more on the next home inspection and appraisal of the next house. Plus it took them 90 days to find it, and driving around and gas and time. And guess what? Interest rates maybe went up 1/4 point during that time too. You didn't save money, you lost money. And that's what happened most of the time when people cancel over something that isn't major. And by major, I mean the roof is shot. There's Chinese drywall. There's a sinkhole under the house. The electric is old knob and tube. They cancel for something major, then it's usually the right call. But when it's not, here's what they end up doing. They either end up going out and finding a house that has the same issues, and maybe they go and find another one, and they waste a bunch of money on inspections and appraisals and time and energy, only to find out that most homes in that price range are going to have things wrong with them. The inspection, to me, is the blueprint for what you need to do in your first few years of ownership. It's a verification that all the major items are fine, and everything else on that list should be your kind of punch list of things you need to knock out in home ownership. You're not moving into an apartment where everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's a house. You're going to have to do some work. So the other part of that, though, is people, the other side of it, people that cancel, they'll generally take a few more months to find another property. And guess what's happening in a few months? Prices are going up. Interest rates could fluctuate to cause them, they don't factor any of that in. They cancel a deal for $1,000. Interest rates go up a quarter point. They lost $1,000 in the first couple of years in interest. So they don't think long term. They think very emotionally and irrationally, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember. When you get a home inspection, it's the home inspector's job to point out everything that is with the house.
Yep.
Big or small. You're normally looking for the big things, the knob and tube, the roof that needs replaced immediately. But they have to point out every little thing because that's their obligation to do so. So it is important to have someone that's a trusted advisor that can guide you and say, hey, is this a big deal or not a big deal, to walk you through, because like you said, you can end up wasting time and money and energy having to find a new property.
And not only that, but so time, energy, and money to find a new property, prices go up. But here's another side of it, okay? We don't want you to go out and make a bad financial decision, okay? Nobody wants you to go out and spend more than you should. But I can tell you the conversations, the emotional, crying, tear-felt conversations I had in the Great Recession with people that did exactly what a lot of home buyers are still doing today. They went out to find a house. They did their inspection. They canceled. They went to find another house. They did their inspection, bunch of little items, they canceled. So they said, okay, let me raise my price. Instead of buying a $250,000 house, now I'm going to buy a $300,000 house because it's going to have a clean inspection report. No, it's not. It's going to have the same issues the $250,000 house did. And so they end up buying a $300,000 house. They stretch their budget. And then when the shift happens and pressures start happening to their finances, they extended their credit as far as they could. They went as high as they could on debt to income to max out and buy the highest priced home because they wanted this magical fairy tale clean inspection report, and then in a few years they end up in foreclosure because they stretch themselves too thin. Don't make that mistake. Don't raise your price because you want some clean inspection report. Just fix the items that are in the inspection report. It'll cost you way less money, just a little bit of effort, So a lot of people make that mistake. So other parts of due diligence, surveys. Getting a survey done on a property, it shows you the lot lines, shows you the encroachments, shows you how much property you have. Surveys are a big part of the home buying process. A lot of people don't do them. I think they're a big part of due diligence. Chemical tests, doing chemical tests on soil, seeing what kind of chemicals could be there is one. Same thing with a home inspection, doing chemical tests of the air, all those things. Inspecting the pool, appraisal of the property, a big part of due diligence. The bank is going to make you do that. And that's to ensure the bank, you guys' interest as well as protect the buyer to make sure they're not overpaying.
Right, it's to protect everybody. It's to protect us as the lender to make sure that the collateral behind the loan we're giving is there. But it's also to to protect the buyer. If the buyer is going in and because they got excited, and these get to be emotional times, and sometimes we make emotional decisions. If we pay too much for the property or we offer too much for the property and it appraises less and it doesn't mark, you don't want to go into in a negative equity position.
Right. Another part of due diligence is title work. Title company is going to do, obviously our title company, Strategic Title, they're going to do a title insurance search. They're going to search for claims. They're going to search for anything wrong with the title that could cause it to be branded, cause you to have a hard time selling it later, or notify you of a lien that may be existing on the property that has to get addressed to give you clear title. So, doing a title search and that process is another part of due diligence. Again, hiring a great real estate agent, they're going to help guide you through all this, so you're not going to have to remember all this. The best part of due diligence and the most important one is hiring a great real estate agent, because they're going to help you through all that stuff when you hire a great one. Whether you're buying or selling, doing that due diligence. But I'll tell you a few things of due diligence that go unnoticed or missed. So you have all the formal stuff. You got the inspections, the surveys, the appraisal, the title search. But you've got informal stuff too. A couple of things that I think are really important. Testing out the commute time. I think it's a big part of due diligence. I can't tell how many people, buy a home. A year later they want to sell it because they didn't realize when they went out Saturday at noon to look at the house that the commute on Monday morning would be 57 minutes instead of the 13 minutes it took them on Saturday at noon. Check that commute time. Run a Google Maps early in the morning. Go drive it. Drive from your work to the property during rush hour. I think that's one that gets missed a lot. Driving through the neighborhood at different times. Everyone's searching for something different in the neighborhood. Some people want a lively neighborhood. They want a neighborhood where there's block parties and neighborhood gatherings, and other people, just want to be a recluse and sit in their house and be left alone. So, drive through a neighborhood to make sure that it's what you want. Go through late at night. Go through on a Friday night. Drive through the neighborhood and get a take of it. I think you learn a lot more, about what's going on that way. I've even seen people recommend doing an Airbnb in the neighborhood, which I think if you're buying, there's a lot of places in Tampa Bay where you can Airbnb. I think that's probably a good idea, to do. So doing your due diligence, I think is crucial, because if you don't do those things, then you could end up making a mistake. So, inspections, appraisal, all the formal things, but going through a neighborhood and then doing some things on your own. You can't expect the agent to know, what you want in a neighborhood in every aspect or every detail. So you need to maybe do a little bit of that on your own. And you know what? Google is your friend.
Yep.
Google the neighborhood, Google the address.
And there's websites out there too where you can Google information like crime facts, what's
Correct.
going on in the neighborhood as far
Yep.
as crime, whether
Yep.
it's violent crime, petty thefts, things like that. You want to know that. You're not going to see that when you go look at property.
Correct,
You're
because
gonna
that's
see
not,
that-
and it's not a material defect, so it's it's not what the seller's obligated to disclose are defects about the house. A defect isn't that, there's, some thug living down the street, that's not a defect.
Well, and actually, as agents, we can't even get into that with you. We can
Right.
just point you to
To
the
the right
spots
direction.
to
Yeah.
look at that yourself, and that's stuff that you have to understand what the agents,
Are allowed to
role
do.
and what
Yeah.
they're allowed to talk about.
Oh, we'll get people to ask us questions like, that's a question that we can't even think about answering.
No.
Like, here's the Fair Housing Guideline Rule 101. You might
Right.
want to read this one and never ask that again, because you might be committing a crime, by even asking it. So, the reality is that, there are things that you want or don't want in a home or neighborhood, and you need to do some of that on your own. The Googling, driving through, checking out neighborhoods, things like that is your obligation. All the other formal stuff are going to be taken care of by professionals as long as you hire those professionals. But it's another reason why kind of going it alone in the real estate process and not hiring an agent is a big mistake, because a lot of people really don't understand all the nuances, and they make mistakes all the time because of all the due diligence that they're afforded that they don't take advantage of. By not having an agent kind of guiding them through that process. Well, we're going to wrap up at the last segment after a quick break. We're also going to talk about our featured property and more. When we aren't on air, make sure to follow all of our socials. We are at The Duncan Duo and theduncanduo.com for all your real estate needs. Search all of our properties, apply for a guaranteed home sale, or get a quick home value estimate. And we'll be back after a quick break here.